Once upon a time, there lived a young girl in a small village. It was a village like any other, at least as far as the girl knew. It was the only place she had ever known since the day she was born to her mother. They didn't have much, but they made do with what they had. People in the village were not kind. They would always look at the girl with disdainful eyes, and she never knew why. What did she do to spur their hatred? She and her mother kept to themselves, never bothering anyone. Yet whenever they did see others, the girl knew they were not welcome. Even when she was just sitting around on the edge of the village, playing with some of the stray cats, she could hear their whispers. "Strange child. She never talks to us. How impolite." Why would she want to talk to the people who, when she did talk to them, only responded with fake smiles and snarky comments? She didn't want to bother anyone, yet it seemed that even when she did that, the people were bothered by her. Why couldn't they just leave her alone? Maybe she's a witch, like the old woman in the forest. She lives in a hut all by herself. What a strange way to live. Thankfully, it's far away enough, so she can't harm us. That piqued her interest. Someone was that far away from all these people, and they weren't interested in approaching her? She was curious. Maybe she could find a way for her and her mother to live like this as well. She continued to listen to the gossip about the witch. People hated her, blaming all their misfortunes on her magic, saying that the stray cats she played with were her familiars. Honestly, they even blamed starving stray cats when they had a bad day. The more she heard about their hateful comments, the more she wanted to escape as well. It seemed like they were hateful towards anything unfamiliar to them. She didn't want to be around that way of thinking. Eventually, she figured out where the witch lived. The girl didn't want to bother her, but maybe if she watched her for a bit, she could figure out how to live a life like hers as well. But the moment she laid eyes on her hut, she was caught by her. The girl expected an old woman after how the villagers described her, but the one asking her what she was doing in this part of the woods was a beautiful young woman. She was not angry, not scary at all, the complete opposite of how they described her. The witch told her how to find her way back to the village. While she did, the girl felt something against her leg. One of the cats she sometimes saw near the village. "You've been the one looking after my little ones?" she asked curiously. I just play with them sometimes, and give them a bit of chicken whenever we can get one," the girl explained simply. "They're sweet, much nicer than people." The woman laughed. "Yes, I agree." After that, she found herself going back to the hut whenever she could. It was so much more peaceful and fun. The witch seemed to take a liking to her, even teaching her about her magic. As expected, none of it had anything to do with the villagers' misfortunes. The witch barely ever spared a thought for those people. They must have thought of themselves as more important than they actually were. Years passed like this, and the girl grew into a young woman herself. Yet the witch never aged. Sadly, she and her mom weren't able to live like the woman in the forest. They couldn't sustain themselves without that kind of magic. But they were always welcomed guests in her hut. Then, on a fateful day, after a long drought, the villagers didn't know how to handle their frustration and anger anymore. They needed someone to blame. It happened to be the witch. There was nothing she could do when they burned down her hut with the witch inside. Hours later, when the fires finally died out, she was able to return to the hut that contained her only happy memories. It was all gone. Everything was in ashes. The comfortable pillows in front of the fireplace, where she liked to take naps with the cats, gone. The kitchen, where she ate some of the most delicious meals she ever got to taste, gone. The room with all her books and potions, gone. Why would they destroy this peaceful place? Why would they burn someone who never bothered them? How could they be allowed to live their life when all they did was hate? She was sitting in the ruins for hours, mourning the loss of her friend and mentor, trying to find anything to at least keep memories of her alive. That's when she found it inside the piles of destructions and ash. A beautiful red gem. A ruby bigger than any gem she had seen in any book. When she touched it, she heard the voice of her old friend. The day you find this will be the day when I will no longer be around. I am sorry for leaving you to this hateful world without being able to give you a peaceful and happy place anymore. But please accept this gift, my magic, and all my knowledge of it. Use them however you wish. The voice vanished, and so did the ruby, fading away right before her eyes. In a nearby mirror, she could see her reflection. Her eyes were the same shade as the gem she had held in her hands a moment before. She could feel the magic in her. The witch had this kind of power all along. If she had wanted to, she could have caused those droughts. She could have taken anything she wanted from them. Hell, she could have taken what she wanted from a king. Yet she lived in this little hut, not bothering anyone. It was then. The years of anger finally caught up with her. They wanted a villain that badly? Fine. She would be the villain they were wishing for so desperately. When she came back to the village, no one recognized her anymore. And as they always were when they saw something unfamiliar, they got scared and angry. "Who are you?" they asked her wearily. "I'm Ruby, the villain you've been wishing for." The young woman smiled before she did to them as they did to her friends. The fires burned for days. Of course, she made sure her mother was safe. After the fires were out, she used her magic to build a house for her from scratch, giving her a good home that provided everything she needed. It was the only home she needed, but she continued to build. Maybe there were others out there who needed a peaceful place like she did. The town she built was bigger and more beautiful than it could have been before, stretching all the way out to the forest where the witch's hut once was. There, she built her own home. Over time, her power grew. She felt more at peace with the animals around her, deciding to use her magic to become more like them. The cats, who had given her so much happiness. And ravens. These dark birds scared her since she was little. If she was to be a villain and wanted to make sure people would fear her, she would have to inspire that fear in them. After some time, there were people coming to her place, searching for safety and peace. People who knew they had no reason to fear her, as long as they wanted nothing but peacefulness. She welcomed them happily, and only sent away those who were as hateful as the ones she had spent so many years with. She decided to create a gift for the ones that came to visit her more often. A collar with a beautiful ruby pendant that would turn them into black cats who had nothing to worry about in life. So whenever they wanted to get a break from the burdens that life brought, they could spend time in her place, playing around as carefree cats, napping in a warm place, eating good meals, having fun, and not a care in the world.